Please welcome to the Tamron Hall Show, Stacey Abrams. So good to have you on. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Rita Moreno is just here. She said, I have to start the interview by giving you her love. She absolutely adores everything about you. Stacey, it's so interesting. People magazine interview you did, you said that your work as a novelist and your work as an activist are the same, that both are storytelling. Explain how these worlds collide and make sense and show both true sides of who you are.
Well, I have to begin by saying I had the extraordinary honor of interviewing Rita Moreno last year about One Day at a Time for the Paley Center. And she is just as extraordinary and fun and amazing. And so just being in the same show, you're clearly the right person for the show because she's awesome. And getting her here, that was amazing. So on what I do. In politics, your job is to help people envision more, to see beyond their current moment, to think about what could be. And in writing, your job is to create a world where people can imagine themselves inhabiting that space. Sometimes they want to be there, sometimes they don't. But the narrative thread is about being able to draw a picture that brings people in and convinces them that they want to be a part of what you're creating. And if you're doing your job effectively, whether it's in activism or in business or in writing, you are creating a world where others believe that they have the agency and the autonomy to craft more. And the most successful leadership is when people believe, and they truly hold to be true, that they are the creators of their next moment.
But for you to create this romance world, you took on the persona of Selena Montgomery. That is, I actually thought about Beyonce when she said she has to become Sasha Fierce to walk out on stage. You created Selena Montgomery to take us into this very sultry and romantic world. In no way do I think of traditional politics in those terms. So do you compartmentalize these parts of Stacey to create A, the political voice that you have, but B, this writer who brings us these steamy pages that people are now bidding wars online over?
No, I compartmentalize presumes that I separate them out and try to keep them isolated from one another. Yeah. For me, it's more brand identity. When I started writing in 1999, I was my last year of law school. And I was, at the same time I was publishing my first romantic suspense novel, I was also publishing my treatise on the operational dissonance of the unrelated business income tax exemption. Nobody who wanted to read my romance novel wanted to read that treatise. And rarely would those who were going to read the treatise, would they acknowledge that they were going to read my romance novel. So for me, it was about just giving people safe space to either enjoy my, musings on tax law or my chemical physicist who was trying to save the world. But the through line for me was that I wanted to tell stories about women, particularly women of color, who were exciting and adventurous, who got to explore worlds that were not considered their province. Right. And so, my characters have been chemical physicists, ethnobotanists, grifters, professional poker players, lawyers, but for me, it is absolutely of a piece that my romantic suspense and my political work, that my activism all come together because they're all part of who I am.
Well, I love that. Stacey, I first met you in 2018 at the Power Summit. There we are together. You had walked on the stage, and I always love telling people that you were what we call an unknown, but the audience was drawn into every word that you said that day. And I remember watching the gubernatorial race and the results, and I thought, where will she go? And then you turn into this powerful voice to transform the political conversation in a way no one saw coming. Did you see that happening? Did the failure have to happen for the rise of the phoenix that you are to achieve?
I would say that I've worked on voting rights most of my adult life, and hopefully no matter what position I hold, it will always be a point of pride for me to advocate. However, not winning an election and being able to point out that there were thousands of Georgians who were denied agency and their right as citizens to participate certainly was a galvanizing force. Not winning the election didn't exempt me from the responsibility of doing the work of making sure that every vote gets counted and every voice gets included. And so I think, yes, certainly not winning created more space. I had plenty of time on my hands.
Right.
And I have been privileged to use that time to really lift this issue up and talk about how we not only cement our democracy, but expand it so that so many more voices that deserve to be included are heard from.
You're always so composed and obviously so eloquent. Was there a moment after not winning, as I used the wrong word because it wasn't a failure by any stretch of the imagination, the not winning, and thank you for correcting that, that you had a pity party? Did you get on the sofa and ever have a pity party about the results or the why me or why didn't it turn out moment that we can have?
Oh, yes. For about 10 days between Election Day on November 6th and my non concession day on November 16th, I like to say with great respect to my Jewish friends that I sat Shiva for about, 10 days, longer than, traditional Shiva. I went through all the stages of grief. I spent a lot of time in angry. Anger was my favorite place, built a condo, have a timeshare there. But my responsibility was to think about what else I needed to do. So it was during that time where I let myself be angry and sad and remorseful, trying to figure out what else I could have done, but also being intentional and thoughtful about what needed to be done. I like to say that I added another stage to grief that I like to call plotting.
Your book, Our Time Is Now, I know was inspired by your grandmother, and you did an interview recently. I think it was a CBS Sunday Morning, and you were asked about ambition, and you said one day it's to be president, and you said it's your responsibility to be honest about that dream. And it made me think of the very popular shirt, and I know you've seen it, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And here you are, the wildest dreams of your grandmother, your ancestors, and you're unapologetic about ambition and aspiration, which is so refreshing and beautiful to see.
Thank you. Well, look, I grew up in Mississippi. I came of age in Georgia. I didn't meet a politician when I was growing up. My parents were super voters. They did not miss an election. And yet I don't recall anyone ever knocking on our door. And I grew up in Georgia working on campaigns, but never believing that it was possible to even conceive of running for governor. Mayor was the highest job I'd ever imagined a Black person could hold in the South. And so my responsibility when I'm asked the question, what do I want? It's to be declarative, but not only to be declarative, but then to explain how I'm going to get there. Because we cannot imagine our way into progress if people don't also give us the guardrails and the steps. You're going to go outside, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to do things people don't expect. You're going to lose elections that you run in. But if your ambition is strong enough, it may not achieve your dream, but it creates a dream, sparks a dream in someone else. And if I can do that, if I can create that moment for a young Stacey or a young Tamron in Texas or in Mississippi or in Georgia who suddenly believes more is possible, then I am my ancestors' wildest dream.